Frogman Friday.
Yeah, boy.
What's up, my people? It's that time again. Welcome to the Frogman Friday show.
Presented by Transcend, the best peptide and hormone therapy. They put your health first so you can live more and worry less. Go to transcendcompany.com/Birdman to begin your wellness transformation today.
Today, our badass guest is Hector Delgado, Navy SEAL, 29 years of service, both enlisted and officer, both active and reserve, retired as a lieutenant commander. Also retired as a special agent with Homeland Security. He founded Trident Warfare in 2024, both in Florida and Georgia. He's also the Director of Development for the Navy SEAL Museum in Fort Pierce, Florida, and San Diego, California. You can catch him on Facebook and Instagram, and to take a deeper dive, go check out tridentwarfare.com. Brother, welcome to the show.
Hey, Birdman. Good to see you, and thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my honor, man. We've been trying to do this for a long time, and you are so busy that I'm finally glad that we get to sit down. So I always like to, especially since you've done so much time in service, I always like to ask this question to kick off is, what was your transition out of service like?
You know, for me, transitioning was a little different than the normal guy because I was going from the feds to the feds. In other words, I was leaving on a program from SEAL Team 4 right into a program that entered me into the United States Marshal Service, which was hiring solely from the military. So it was very seamless. My class or my academy class was full of military people. So we spoke similar languages, similar experiences. So it was fairly seamless, unlike a lot of some of the horror stories that I hear from the military and some of these guys leaving the teams.
Yeah, I mean, I get a lot of that on this show. Every guy has, majority of them have a pretty tough time getting back into society because, I mean, they're going after it, trying to go the civilian route. And they realize, we were just having this conversation about an hour ago, where you expect, because you don't really understand the level that you're operating at, and then you get out and now you're in the civilian sector and you're requiring people to do the same type of work that people in the SEAL teams would do, and they just don't move at that pace. So you really get a taste of how high level you guys are moving and all that stuff. It's pretty interesting, but I'm so glad. It's a breath of fresh air to hear that yours was a seamless transition and you moved it forward. Very important, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. And again, it's not only the quality of work, it's the level of commitment to each other that we have in the SEAL team and in SOF in general. It's different in the civilian world. It's one thing to approach a job or a mission or to conduct it, to get accomplish the goal at 150%. But now, we rely on each other in the teams. And sometimes that doesn't carry over in the civilian world, unfortunately.
Man. Well, I mean, you got almost 30 years of service in the service. I mean, that's insane. Tell us what World War II was like.
Yeah, you'll have to ask Rick Kaiser on that one.
That's legit, man. That is legit. Well, I want to get into your company right now, Trident Warfare. So you found it in 2024, and you've got it in 2 locations, Florida and Georgia. Right. Talk about what it is, why did you found it, and what you do.
Yeah. So throughout my career in the teams, as you know, each team has their own logos. We know we have our own logos, but also platoons and units have their own insignias, own logos. Some of them are, in your face, and some of them are small. I used to go around. I remember that each Master Arm Shack would sell shirts that none of the public would ever see or know. So I have a library of ideas. I have a library of graphics and designs that some team guys designed that I have permission to use. And then, so I kind of was thinking, how can I first service my community by engaging the guys on Facebook? And some of these guys, as we retire, we start putting bigger crap and bigger shit on our backs and because I was a SEAL and my, SEAL dad and all this. And then the younger guys and the active duty guys are more discreet. So I have a plethora of things. And it was initially called Frogman's Retreat. And people were like, are you moving back or are you opening up a hotel? So I said, no, I just don't like the name. Spoke to a branding guy and ended up partnering with a husband and a vet and his wife who actually have a physical location. Because when I started this, it was myself, trying to do everything and socialize it. And I would have different printers from different parts of the country and the world. Printing and quality the quality control was hit and miss. Now I have a physical location with the equipment that I control, with the quality that I control. And we're starting to get a lot of business, a lot of traction. But we are partnered with several charities because, again, I want to provide those charities our designs. Some of them are for free, or we'll do some collaborations where a portion of the proceeds go back to these charities. So I'm having a lot of fun with that. And to me, it's just, it's in sync with what I've always done within the teams.
That's legit. I mean, it's funny. We were just talking about this not too long ago. So there was a shop in San Diego called Bullshirt, and everybody knows Bullshirt, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we get word that they were closing down, and that's who has and runs all of our Hell Week shirts.
Yeah.
And I even talked to them with a buddy and said, we'll buy all the decals or the prints from you guys so that we can continue to make these shirts for guys. And they said no. And it's gone.
Yeah. So I had a similar experience. Mine was, I was out there for a trip a couple of years before they closed down. And I said, hey, I'm class 149. I want to get a shirt made. They came back with the list. They're like, no, you used up your, I'm like, wait a minute, you've got, I'm sorry. I was like, okay. And that's what, I said, you know what, I can recreate some of this stuff. So I can tell you, and I can tell the audience, if you have a class, I have access to the folks who have the majority of those templates. So just let me know, reach out to me, and we'll hook you up and take care of you. There's some classes that hold these reunions at muster at the museum, and so I'm connecting folks to make sure that their classes are represented properly.
That's legit. So for everybody who doesn't know what I'm talking about, so every SEAL class, let's just use me. I went through class 245 for Hell Week. And so we always design a Hell Week shirt, and it's just proprietary to the class. And then you're allotted, when you were done with it, if you graduated, you're allotted so many shirts that you could buy. Once you ran out, apparently you couldn't get any more, which I found just fascinating. But they were all harbored under one company, and this company went out of business. And so we have no way of accessing getting our shirts made anymore because the shirts wear out, they get tired and old, and you always want to have that because that's a special part of our life. So for you to be able to to grab that and be able to build these templates out again is a huge win for the SEAL teams, because everybody, guys are a little discreet, like you said, about wearing like a SEAL Team 5, SEAL Team 3, SEAL Team 7 shirt, but your Hell Week shirt, whole different ball game, right?
That's right. That's right.
So you kick this off, and this is you're supporting obviously the Brotherhood by getting those shirts recreated, and then also helping with these different frog charities, and I'm sure there's other charities. What exactly is your goal, and what do you do?
Well, first and foremost, I've identified where we're going, the current status right now, or state, and we're talking about charities and how it syncs with Trident Warfare. We're in sort of in a dwell period right now. Peacetime dwell with the new administration, with President Trump. And so what happens is some of these charities that are out there, NSW, Navy SEAL charities, and soft charities, and charities in general, they're going to become less relevant, but not less important, And what I've seen with the museum is that we're brick and mortar there, and I'm using the museum because Trident Warfare is now servicing some of the shirts at the museum as well. So we have people that come into the museum, SEALs and other veterans. They have mental health issues, financial challenges, emotional challenges. And, some of these programs we can't offer. They're not in our programs. But what I'm trying to do from a museum perspective is to work with these other charities, not compete for donor to donor, but hey, brother, you need that? Let me pick up the phone. Let me call the foundation. Let me call Warrior Health Foundation. Let me call Swim with the Mission. Let me call these that I have relationships with, that have these programs, and get them the help. It's unacceptable for us to allow these suicides to happen. It's unacceptable for us to not have a swim buddy check, and to you and I know we have loss. We've suffered severe loss from guys. People are behaving differently.
Yeah.
We need to understand why they're behaving differently. So,
That's legit. I mean, that is. So I did this back. I started a charity in 2012 called Sons of the Flags for burn survivors, and very niche, very different. Nobody was really talking about burn survivors. Around 2015, I had realized that majority of these charities were operating in their own silo. They're trying to raise money on their own to solve the equation, and then they think that they're the ones who are going to fix the problem. Which I'm like, you're not the only ones who can fix the problem. You have to collaborate and team up. Then I also started to realize how territorial they were.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is BS. And so we started another organization called Bird's Eye View Project, truly to be that epicenter to say, okay, we've got all these partners. Let's start putting together some funding for them. So that way, when we call and say we got a guy or a girl who needs help, they can jump on it. And we know we have a legit partnership. It goes both ways. And so, I would definitely love to talk with you offline about how we can work with you guys, because we're in the same mindset. Like, we like to work with everybody until they prove us wrong and piss us off and they don't do the job.
and listen, brother, we're open to working with you and others. And, I know you asked a question about what I'm doing, but, I mentioned the museum, and I bring that up because, of course, Trident Warfare, the mission is to get those shirts and do designs, but our mission is to support these charities. That's part of my mission, to get this done. You mentioned something about silos, and let's talk about that since you and I are frogmen. There was a lot of, let's take the Navy SEAL Foundation, for example. There's a lot of guys that have a lot of positive things to say, and there are guys who say negative things. But the truth of the matter is the Navy SEAL Foundation was, their charter was very strict. So when someone calls up and said, hey, my daughter needs a tutor, and I'm sorry, Hector, can't help you. Oh my, someone is autistic, and sorry, we can't. So what ended up happening was there was a lot of frustration, right? Oh, you have to die to get support? Okay. Right. So people who had legitimate, we want our brothers, we want to be forward, doing God's work, not worrying about my son or daughter and the lack of medical services or needs that they have. So there was a lot of folks within our community said, okay, I'll start this. I'll do SEAL Legacy. I will, SEAL Future Found. I'll do all these things. And these are other organizations that have great missions. And there was a reason why they went that route, because the foundation was very siloed. But of course, fast forward, now they have a ton of programs, and they're doing great things. And the truth of the matter is, when there's a suicide and the blood is on the water, it's the foundation that's there mopping it up and doing that and dealing with the Gold Star family. So we have to understand the big picture. But one of my goals, and my personal goal, is to get them together, get us all together.
Yeah.
Programs together. Let's stop confusing these donors, and let's get some ownership. Let's get rid of the egos and some of those leaders that are, this is mine, and let's do something that's really going to represent the community at whole.
And you hit the nail on the head, because I can't tell you how many SEAL charities there are now. And, you start to hear about some of the more prominent ones, but there's just so many, and it's like, y'all need to be talking 100%. I would love nothing more than to not have a charity and then just be able to operate within the confines of our brotherhood's charities. So yeah, keep on that mission, man. That is going to be a beautiful thing to see.
Absolutely. And we will be a clearinghouse, the Navy SEAL Museum, because it's brick and mortar versus going to a suite or we're brick and mortar. We're there. It's a national designated museum. So we will be the clearinghouse. You have a need. If I don't have it on site, and if we don't have a program, I'm going to direct you, and we're going to partner up with someone to get your help.
That's legit. So get back into Trident Warfare. Okay, so you're making swag for the Brotherhood, for different teams, for the charities. Are you taking on clients in the civilian sector, or are you focused primarily in the special ops community?
We just had this call last week. So I've decided that, we have a very small community. And what, not only, as you know, in my background, it's not only Frogman, it's law enforcement. So what I'm doing now is I'm expanding that footprint. I want us to service and have a niche with first responders, with those, with blue and red, with the firemen, with the first responders. I also want to, bring in the green boys, from the Army, get the Marines, get the MARSOC guys. So I want to start doing something. If you look at our brand, I want to have a representation of it's a first responder, a military themed apparel store. And I also am looking at some higher end quality, accounts that we've established with Oakley and Puma and so forth, and enter into the golf side, the golf game and other sports. Now, as you and I know, if you're a good golfer, you're a shitty SEAL. So you're good. Yeah, so I just want to say that. Inside joke on that one.
That's what they say about dudes who have kids and are completely ripped and in perfect shape. They say, if you look like this, then you're probably a shitty father. So
I hear you, brother.
Oh, it's so good. Okay, so for those listening that are in either military, active duty, reserve, retired, or law enforcement, first responder, EMS, and they come to your site, what can they expect? What can they do with you?
So you can expect in the near future more first responder and more other services representation. It's limited right now. You go there, you're going to see this is sort of Navy, sort of a SEAL type of thing. I want to expand that I want to expand those options. Additionally, for the NSW guys, for the SEALs, I do have a tab in there that is only for you. You can only get in there with a certain password. And inside that tab is a whole different library of shirts that, that you can order. The difference is that with me, you can say, Hector, I want Freddy the Frog up here and I want this in the back. I'll make you that shirt. You don't have to buy 12 or 2 dozen. You want to customize it. Right now, inside that site, there's a shirt there where guys can put their class number under Freddy the Frog. What do you want in the back? Okay. Or they could send me a graphic and my guys will clean it up and we can make it for them. Class reunions, platoons that have their own little patches and so forth. We're getting into patches. We just purchased a very expensive embroidery machine. So these are the things that we're doing. The goal is for us, all of us in NSW, all the Frogmen, the SEALs, we should have SEAL companies from SEALs that are in good standing, sharing our businesses, like you do on your show, helping us promote them, share the businesses, point them in the direction, and let's help each other out. So that's a common goal that you and I have, and that's a common goal that I'm trying to get at. Not only service each other and help each other, but help those first responder and the other units. So I'm open to working with anyone as long as you're in good standing within your community.
I love the fact that you can customize for the frogs and that you don't need to do a certain, amount of run. Cause I know I always have ideas and issues and designs that I want to do. And it's just so difficult to find the swag companies that are consistent. There's always something, whether they misplaced the logo or it's off cant and it's not equal, or you just oh, well, these are our treatments and this is what we have. So you have to buy from this. And so customizing for the frogs, is that what you want to get into with law enforcement and all that other side of the house, is customization as well?
I do. There's a lot of, when I was, my career went from being in the teams, going into the Marshal Service, and 9/11 struck, of course. So I started out in New York City, went to Miami as a U.S. Marshal, Deputy U.S. Marshal. Then 9/11 struck. That changed the whole landscape, not only for the SEAL Reserves, because that was a good old boy club. That they would show up, let's steal some active duty. Oh, the shorts are hanging, let's take them, we're out of here. To, okay, are you going to, are you committed now to, can you leave? Do you own a business? That the game about reserve game is over now. It's real deal. You're doing workups, and you may not be going forward, but now you're going to backfill those guys. So there was a lot of like, oh yeah, I'm getting activated, but I sell computer software. Okay, you're going to Fort Chaffee to continue training, and these guys are leaving. So, and I'm sorry for shifting gears, but this is, this happened where we were in the reserves, and then things got real, and guys started looking at, and the active duty guys were also saying, okay, oh yeah, those guys are great guys. They're working for Blackwater or this law enforcement, like I was running a SWAT team or an SRT team. Okay, Hector's skill, those skill sets are still active. So we were able to, from the reserve side, active duty teams were able to start picking and choosing some of those guys that they had relationships with, that they would serve with, for the most part, with some minor fine tuning, and get them forward, because it was a big spin up and a quick spin up right after 9/11.
I remember guys showing up to the platoons, going on different trips with us. I'm like, who are you? Like, man, I was reserve, and now I'm here. And I'm like, sweet. Are you excited? And he's like, yeah, I finally get to, get my time to do the show. So that's legit, man. Really crazy, your career's trajectory. I mean, you served on both coasts.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that, because that's unusual.
Yeah. Serving at SEAL Team 2, I did for 5 years at SEAL Team 2. That was great. Serving, working in Northern Europe and doing winter warfare and deploying and I did 2 other deployments at SEAL Team. I did 3 deployments at SEAL Team 2. 2 of them were on Margs. We used to ride those ships. And, late 80s, the Navy still did not like the SEALs. We would get paid by the Navy, but we were not liked. Of course, we had that attitude of no uniforms and just, and I have to tell you, I think a lot of people know this, that back then it was different. When I say different, I won't say it was harder in training, but what I'm going to tell you is that the behavior how we behaved, what we were allowed to do. You're talking about having a keg. You would do a run at SEAL Team 2, 8-mile run on Friday, shower, get to the, come to the back, and let's start drinking. Indoors,
Frogman Friday.
Frogman, that's it. We're drinking the beer, and that's it. And there was this, it was just different. What? You've got 2 DUIs? Promote them. Let's go. It was just way, we can get away with a lot more, and it was just different.
Yeah.
And the same thing with training, but the bottom line is it is different now, and we've evolved, and we're fighting and doing it. But going back to your question, yeah, SEAL Team 2 was great. And then look, I didn't like that cold stuff. My mother and father are Puerto Rican. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, a New Yorican, right? Let's get away from the cold. Let's get to SEAL Team 4. And those were the times when we were still, the area of operation was, SEAL Team 2 was Northern Europe, Africa, Northern Africa, and SEAL Team 4 was Central and South America. Again, great time at SEAL Team 4. Had the opportunity to, at the time, and it's unclassified now, but because there wasn't much going on in the world, going down into South America, working an operation called Snowcap, where we were burning the labs down and blowing up the runways, and we were rounding up the Shining Path terrorists down in Peru. There were other units in Bolivia, and of course we were looking for Escobar and those guys in Colombia. So it was a good time to be at SEAL Team 4. Again, SEAL Team 2, SEAL Team 1 and SEAL Team 2 are the original SEAL teams. A lot more structured, by the book. SEAL Team 4 at the time, borderline criminals and pirates, just crazy. But they got it done, and it was a crazy time. So both teams were excellent. Got a lot more from Team 2. What do I mean by that? Was working with the SBS, working with the Commando Bears, working with the German Kampfschwimmers, the Norwegian Jaegers. There was a lot of learning and giving at the same time. I climbed as a young, I think I was 20 years. I turned 21 in Europe when I was at SEAL Team 2, and I climbed the Matterhorn. That was my FTX. So we did a lot, and you learned a lot. Central and South America, a little different. The knowledge base there was different. It was more of a FID mission, which again, FID is the Army Green Berets, who I have the utmost respect for, do that well. They want us to do FID as effective as we can. add another phase into buds. We're not into rubbing backs and putting people to sleep and pulling teeth. That's not us, you know. So, but that was sort of what we were doing down south. I was lucky to get away and do that that mission. Coincidentally, there is a frogman. His name is John McGuire. He's a congressman out of Virginia now. Who it was a 4-man team down in Peru. He was with me back in the day. We were just talking about that recently.
That's legit. Derek Van Orden. Derek Van Orden's congressman in Wisconsin, and he and I were at Team 7 together. It's
Yep.
just so different. I remember when he was running, I'm like, well, you're doing what?
Yeah.
I was like, hadn't you had enough service? And he's like, never. And I'm like, cool. Sweet. Well, cool. And I was like, what do you need? And I was like, well, I mean, if we're going to get real here, because this is how politics work, right, is I got to get my word in first. So I want to legalize base jumping in national parks. And he's like, okay. And I was like, no, I'm serious about it. He's like, all right, well, let's set a real meeting and we'll talk about it. I'm like, cool. So
You just said something that I'm gonna just say something to you which is really unique. We have the only Navy SEAL memorial in the world. It sits right behind the museum.
yep.
And on that wall are all the SEALs and UDT men that have died in combat or in training. And there was a shift of how we thought from the board and from the museum. Started about 10 plus years ago, because what happens is when someone dies, okay, he was on a mission, he was training, he was on orders. How does the VA, the investigation, what's the outcome? And based on all those factors and our criteria, he goes on the wall. So, but what happens when someone jumps out of a balloon or jumps from a base, does a base jump, or breaks into the pool to train with his swim buddy and do some dumbbells and hold their breath and they die? These are all examples that have occurred. And you start thinking, and there's a debate. Well, they were trespassing. They shouldn't have done that. Okay. But then you take a step back. You go, why do we train these guys a certain way? Why are they wired this way? What were these guys doing? Why were they doing it? That's because they're trying to excel at their hobby, their sport. They're doing things to continue to push themselves. Same thing with suicides. Why did this person kill himself? What was it? Do we understand what PTSD and TBI are? The old timers, right? What is it? Oh, he's a quitter. No. So the education and the growth and the reasoning of how we understand these deaths and why they should be celebrated and memorialized is very important. So I'm very happy and proud that we were able to, especially with Rick Kaiser pushing the needle on this, educating folks like, we train a certain way. We continue to live even when you get out. I mean, you're not in the teams anymore. Look what you're doing. You know what I mean? You're still flying. You're doing things because this is how we're wired. So it's important that we evaluate those deaths and as to why they come in and who's deserving to be on that wall.
It's interesting because my sniper partner and one of my dearest friends and a mentor to me, David Metcalf, was put on the wall, and he committed suicide in 2019.
Yep.
And I remember getting the call saying, would you come? It was from his wife saying, would you come and speak at the UDTCU Museum when they're doing the unveiling of his name on the wall? Like, of course I will. And I showed up, and of course it was just it made so much sense to me that his name was on the wall, and I was so grateful for it, because a function of being a Navy SEAL and combat wartime and that is you're going to be put under a lot of pressure, and none of us know how we're going to react to that, but none of us know how we're going to react to that years afterwards. And then on top of that, getting out of the service, it's so hard to get into the teams. It's so easy to get out. And then when you're out, you're now like, okay, I have to manage all this stuff in my life, and everything that I've put in that box that I haven't paid attention to because we're so good at compartmentalization, we're not good at going back into that box to kind of go through it and settle it, right?
Yep.
So getting his name up on the wall meant so much to me and his family, and was such an honor, and especially such a holy and a special place like the museum.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys have done a great job with memorializing.
Yeah. So I remember when David was on the wall, when we put him on the wall, and something special. Well, I'll tell the viewers now, when we speak about the museum, please understand it's not just four walls. We do have a museum. That's the legacy. That is the, making sure that our legacy and educating the public. But we have, it's sort of a triad. You've got the Navy SEAL Memorial, which is now where they will be memorialized and honored. And then you have the Trident House. And Trident House is a house that was gifted to us. It was a place now where, as you know, these guys coming back from overseas, they want to be a dad. They want to be a coach. They want to be a husband. These families are in disrepair. Let's get them down to the Trident House. They can reconnect. It's a house of respite, no agenda. They can go visit their buddies. Or if it's a fallen SEAL, they can go see their dad. They can go see their husband. He's on the wall. It's their museum. It's their home. They can see him. So we have that, that legacy piece, education. You've got the Trident House Charities, which, of course, has the home, has scholarships, and a few other programs. And then you've got the wall. So when they come down, it's pretty neat to try and help these families and also allow them to come and see and touch, put their hands on the wall on their fellow teammate or their dad or their son. So, and it's
amazing.
It's open to you and your family. Just let me know, call the museum. We'll if it's available, you can come and stay there. And it's in South Florida in a great area. We don't publicize or publish the address for OPSEC purposes, but we'll make it happen for you.
That's legit. So to the viewers, if you haven't been to the museum, you need to go check it out. I mean, this is the homeland where we actually started SEAL training back in World War II. I mean, Fort Pierce, Florida, still remains. It's really cool. Not an active duty base, but just to see what guys had to go through back then. And you have it up on the wall. You've got the Scouts and Raiders. You got the NCDUs, or Naval Combat Demolition Units. You've got, obviously, the UDTs and then the SEALs. And so to bring all this together to show kind of the path of how we have evolved to becoming what we are today, it's an incredible, rich history. It's an incredible way that you guys have presented everything. You keep collecting more and bringing it to the museum. And now opening up a San Diego chapter so that people on both coasts can see. I'm so excited about San Diego just because it gives the West Coast something, but there's nothing that's ever going to replace the original. No, that's for sure.
No, it's not. And but I think foot traffic, I think exposure and opening it up with where retirements can happen, and just having a home and a place for those guys, it's special. It's going to be more of an experience than anything, but it's well deserving for our community. And again, it's something that we can touch and feel. And you mentioned West Coast, and you asked me a question earlier. I told you the East Coast experience. In 2005, 2006, I was a reservist, of course, got activated again. I think I was a Lieutenant JG at the time. And I show up out there, and they gave me orders to Group 1. And so I show up there, and there's a guy named Siebenauer. I think he's a prior enlisted officer. I think he retired as a captain or a commander. And he put me through buds, actually, when he was enlisted as a senior chief. Anyway, I was starting to work for him. And I go to Chow Hall, and I run into an old classmate of mine. His name's Colin Green. He's retired as an admiral about a year or two ago.
Yep.
And he sees me. He's like, Hector, we start talking. He tells me that they're doing a workup. He was the CO of SEAL Team 3. He tells me they're doing a workup and starts sharing some issues that we had forward in Iraq with some of the prisoner handling. And he was looking to put together a team of preferably SEALs because NCIC and FBI were trying to come along for the ride, mainly to go on these operations instead of doing their job. But he basically was trying to get these SEALs that were reservists in law enforcement to kind of run the diff and to make sure that the interviews and the interrogations were going well before we turn them over to the CIA or whoever. So I didn't tell my wife this, of course. So he said, "Hey, are you willing to come over?" I said, "Absolutely, Roger that." and my daughter was only a year old. So I went over, got orders from Group 1 over to Team 3 at the end of their workup, and got to meet the guys. At the time, didn't know where I was going to land in there. I was sort of a free agent, and he was moving me around, and we ended up deploying. So we got into, obviously flew into Iraq, and we had set up the task group out of Fallujah. And then we set up a unit in Ramadi and a few other places. And he tasked me to be to be sort of the cub. I would give the cub brief every morning to him as to what was going on in Ramadi. So I roll out to Ramadi just to get my essay on and meet Jocko, meet the guys, let them know I'll be out here for a week or two, and then I'm going to roll back in, and I'll be your point of contact back to the commander. And next thing you know, very hot time. I get out there. They're already in the first week. They're in the shit. Start doing God's work out there, and as you know, we did take some. We had some injuries initially, and they sent back their OPSO, so I ended up staying there. Got connected to a very good guy named Mike Sorelli, who you know Mike, I'm sure.
Yep.
So he was the OPSO, and I was the OPSO, and we would swap. I would, run the talk one day and go out with the guys. He would run the talk one day. He would go out, and I ended up staying out there. So I say it was the highlight and the lowest point of my career. I say highlight because we got to do some really different things. And I say that because a lot of guys, even on the East Coast, didn't understand what we were doing. Why were we doing this? Daytime ops. What the hell's going on? And when you have soldiers and Marines being killed, 18-year-old kids being killed because the routes aren't clear, because they don't have the equipment at night to engage and neutralize these guys, and you get help, and you get requested by the colonel to come over and bring Jocko and bring the officers. I need to talk to them. I need help. You're going to, we were tired of going to these memorials for these poor young soldiers. So We jump on board and we start helping the conventionals. I don't care how special you think you are. You don't own the battle space. The Army owns the battle space. Marines own the battle space. We start helping our brothers and sisters there and start making an impact. And then, of course, from that, we start looking and seeing how their movement through the city and doing all this. So providing overwatch. There was a lot of things that they needed help in, and we were there. Of course, we like to fight at night. We like to use our toys. But the downside of that is, of course, you speak about teamwork, you speak about teams. You look at Mike Mansour, who did not flinch an inch, did not, let me think about it. No, he jumps on a grenade. That is how we are with each other. That's how he was. And so acts like that, where he's a Medal of Honor recipient. You've got Mark Lee, and of course, Ryan Jobe died from complications, and Chris Kyle we lost later. But overall came back, demobilized. I stay in touch with all of them. I will tell you this, that Jocko, Leif Babin, the guys at Echelon Front have been very instrumental with the West Coast Museum, with helping us on a number of different fronts. All those guys have been great. So leadership, continuing leading from the front, even in their post, active duty services. I'm very appreciative of that leadership and that friendship. And another guy who's a hell of an underachiever, his name's Johnny Kim.
Oh my gosh.
Spoke to him before he took off to space. He's another supporter within his means. He can't do certain things because he still is working for NASA and isn't actually a Navy officer. But he's got a home with us when he gets back. And so that was my West Coast time. And I had to spend a little extra time there for a little injury, and then demobilized and came back to Reserve World and back to the East Coast. But I think that affected my support of the museum out there and the needs, so.
It's amazing. I remember, so I deployed in 05, and we were tasked with Ramadi and then also TQ Habbaniyah, and we put a group out at Shark Base. And I remember we got done with that. I got blown up. I got sent home early and doing recovery and all that stuff. And then we used to do the thing called the RIP, where we'd rip platoons, right?
Yep.
And then all of a sudden 06 comes around, and Bruiser goes out there and just annihilates it and does such a good job. And then we replace them essentially in '07,
Oh yeah,
where
with
there was,
Rico. Lenway, were you in that team? With
which one?
Rico Lenway, was he your CO?
No, not a
Team
Team
five. I'm
7.
sorry, that was Team Five. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, but we still, I mean, there was just not a whole lot of work anymore because they had done so much work out there. And it was like, okay, we got to find a new mission, new place. But it was awesome to see that stuff where we actually shut down Full Metal Jacket because
Yeah.
there wasn't a need. And you guys did a hell of a lot of work out there. And a lot of those guys you mentioned are great. I mean, Michael Mansour is every one of our heroes. Dude's unbelievable. Jumping on a grenade to save teammates' lives and lost his life as doing that. It's just, I always say this to guys. I'm like, this is a new guy who jumped on a grenade to save his teammates' lives without hesitation, like you said.
Right.
I mean, that is selfless. It's something that I could never say, oh, I could do that, until you're presented with that. But unbelievable. And to be able to put all this stuff in a museum so that we can honor them and continue to look at the heritage and where we've come from, how we've evolved. And especially if you've got kids that are trying to join the military, they want to go in the SF world or special ops world, a museum is a great place to start to go look at and just see the heritage, understand what you're going to try to become a part of. So that's amazing, man. What was the decision to make, moving on to, the UDT SEAL Museum? So obviously you got this prominent museum in Florida. Everybody in the SEAL teams knows about it. What was the decision to actually start up a West Coast?
Well, historically, the museum here on the East Coast, we never did any fundraisers. It started off with the generation that the quiet professionals. And what ended up happening was once 9/11 occurred, and then the operation with bin Laden, once that happened, we were getting a lot of foot traffic. Now you've got Fox News, CNN, you have all the news outlets coming down to the SEAL Museum, right? So we had to make a decision internally, say, how do we, because first and foremost, the museum is on the beach in Fort Pierce.
Yeah.
What? Why? It's there because that was the birthplace of the Frogman. Most people don't know, right? Well before the causeways were there, you had these soldiers and these Marines drowning in 6 to 8 feet of water with their gear on these landing craft because the Germans and the Japanese were putting these obstacles in. So they had to bring in this volunteer force. They had to ramp them up very quickly. That's how we got Hell Week. And all of that was done in Fort Pierce. But from a business perspective, doesn't make sense. Let's go to Orlando, right? But that's symbolic ground that's hallowed ground for us. But how do we, in a humble fashion, grow? How do we do this? Do we do it with fundraisers that we're going to continue to do forever? And guys like me dress up to be Navy SEAL for the day and do a demo? Or, let's look at expanding where we can have a presence on the West Coast, which will cover down for us now, and get that revenue coming in and that endowment built. So that was the decision. Again, dealing with California was very difficult. When I say that as a state, because of regulations and so forth, it was a 9-year process, 9 years plus. But now we have that showcase, which is being built, and it's it's tremendous, and it's going to be it already is a success. The word is out. So that's what occurred, and that's the reasoning why.
When does the West Coast Museum open?
October 4th, 2025.
All right, this year. And where is it located?
So it's down near the Embarcadero, 1220 Kettner, and it is a showcase. Think of it as when a developer goes to build a large complex or a large development, they put like a sales, they put the model right there. It is a showcase, which is going to incorporate, our history, but that's phase 1. Phase 2 will be the larger piece that will be right directly across the Midway. And so those relationships with the Midway, with the port, with Warcom, with all the stakeholders in that downtown area have been, solidified and nurtured. And so that's the relationship, that's the future there. And that's the support we're getting.
That is legit. A 9-year process. Wow. That's difficult. Crazy.
Yeah,
man. And you've got the hot seat. As far as I know, the director of development, you've got a pretty busy job there.
Well, again, how do we do things? First and foremost, before we ask anybody or civilian to put their hand in the pocket, we had to do it ourselves first. So are we willing to give? So we held this plank owner. It's called the Plank Owners Campaign. So every Buds class that wanted their name on there was a $5,000 goal. So every class that was living class came together, and some guys were able to carry that class because they were successful in business. Others could only give 500 or 100 or 50. It didn't matter. But we had such a robust response. We were well over $1 million just on the SEALs. And again, I speak about Jocko and his team, and Leif Babin, leading from the front. So that was a successful campaign. And of course, we continue to have these campaigns to continue to finish and get the final museum built. But it's been tough. Again, you're a SEAL. You're going to start and try and do things as a development. Did I go to school for this? No. Do I know anything about? But I do know about relationships, and I do know the current state of affairs on the active side and on the post service side. So I'm able to meet with these donors and cultivate these relationships. And we need to professionalize that development team. There are kids that have these degrees and not for profit, set them up, working with the Medal of Honor Museum and their team and sharing what they do, sharing the team from the Navy SEAL Foundation, sharing what programs work. That's what we're doing now. That's why I'm so happy and proud to work with these guys and these gals, because they're teaching us things. Us. We'll break it, we'll destroy it, we'll fix it. But if there's a way to automate things and to work smarter, we're going to do that. And so that's the key. I'll kick it off. I'll lead it. We'll get it where it needs to be. Let's get these professionals in and let's start working in a smoother fashion.
I love that. Well, it's another piece too. I can't wait for it to open so I can bring my family out there and just see it, because my kids are young and they don't understand what I used to do. And so to be able to showcase this and get them excited and inspired, it's just so great. It's great for kids, but it's also great for everybody. I mean, everybody's got such a big excitement towards the SEALs. And I tell this to people all the time. He'll say, this guy wants to meet you. He's a bit of a, he likes the SEALs a little bit too much. And I'm like,
Right.
You know what? Here's the bottom line is I was that guy too, just like all of us. We all wanted to do this job and we thought it was so cool, and fanboys because it is cool. And then we just happen to be the guys who got to do it. But I respect it when people admire what we do. Just makes you feel good inside. So let's get back to it here. We got your Trident Warfare company, and we're going to put everything up online so everybody can see it, tridentwarfare.com. Make sure to go check them out. If you're a veteran, active duty military, first responder, any demographic, you've got teams that need swag, you go to tridentwarfare.com, get in touch with Hector. They'll get you all sorted, and let's start helping him grow his business, because this is special. This is something that every team, whether you're law enforcement, fire, EMS, police, military, you all have your team swag. And I remember in the teams, it was very difficult for us to actually source swag at the time. Like they had a little common area. They'd sell a couple things at the team store at the team. It was all garbage, And so I'm like, this is perfect. This is exactly what we've needed, especially those Buds class designs. They're awesome. And you do personalized designs, which is so rad. What have we not touched on for Trident Warfare that you want people to know?
I think we've touched on it all. I do everything at 150% level. I'm proud to have this store open. I'm proud to have a physical location. I'm willing to work with anyone, for a good cause. The only other thing that we've left out is I do consult for a company called GoSafe, and it's very close to my heart because this is a technology. It's a magazine that actually goes into a weapon that you can lock. And don't think of it as operational. Think of it as a police officer gets home. Some of these folks don't have, locks or safes. And of course, their weapon gets stolen, taken, or inquisitive kids or the friends of their children, and something bad happens. And the company I've been also helping them just promote them. It's called GoSafe. And my wife told me, she said, if it saves one kid's life, then this is a good product. It's not something that I'm on the street. I see something. Let me change magazines. This is something that when you're in green, not operating in yellow or red, that can save a lot of lives, and it doesn't change any policies for any law enforcement officers. So I'm helping promote that and help that out. So that's what I do, amongst other things. But my passion is, annoying my wife and daughter, spending time with them, fishing and boating, helping the museum, helping other vets, and just sharing the message. And I appreciate you having me on here.
Absolutely, brother. Well, we're going to send work your way. I mean, I already know of like 10 guys that are going to jump in and get behind you in Trident Warfare. And I'm going to do it myself because I've got already ideas. So we're going to have a talk offline. And then the UDT SEAL Museum, whether you're going to San Diego, California, or Fort Pierce, Florida, make sure to make a stop in. It is a nonprofit. Dollars do matter, and supporting the cause on both coasts, it keeps our tradition alive, it keeps our legacy alive, and be able to showcase where we've come from. I said this, it was so cool. So we had a guy, I'm certain that you met him, Bill Dawson. Wow, Bill.
Yes. Yeah.
So UDT or NCDU Team 2, he was the only remaining member of Class 1 from the NCDUs in World War II, and did the job, and then got out, moved to Maryland, and became a firefighter for a career. And we got in touch with him, ended up hanging out with him and becoming close with him. And during one of our events, I remember turning to him and saying, how does it make you feel knowing that the community that you were a big part of creating has now killed the most wanted terrorist in history, Osama bin Laden? And he just started crying. And it's like, these stories have to be told. They have to be shared. And so you guys do a hell of a job at the museum. Every time I've gone there, you honor the guests so well. You've presented everything so well. You've got it just every section, Vietnam, all the way back. And it's very important. So make sure if you get the chance to go check out either of the museums, please do so. It helps us and it helps keep the legacy alive. And we'll put that out as well. That's legit, man. Well, I always like to close with this one. Who is your hero and why?
Who is my hero and why? Gosh. Okay, you're going to have to edit this one because you've stumped me. I mean, I should have an answer for that, I'm going to say it's my parents, both of them. My parents are, my mother was the one who put me into a military camp, which taught this kid from Brooklyn, New York, how to swim and service, sacrifice, something bigger than me in military camp. And my dad, who actually saw the direction I was going in after high school, and threatened me with bodily harm to get the hell out of the house. And I joined the Navy. So those two people who are still alive, I think it's a joint hero thing. And I love them very much. I'm grateful to still have them alive. But they were the most impactful and impressionable in my life.
That's a great statement, man. It's funny, when we started this out asking that question, it stumped every single person that's been on, because there's a list. There's a ton of people that we've served with that are heroes and have done incredible things. And so it started out with guys talking about their brothers from the SEAL teams, and then it started to mature into parents and God. And it was like, wow, it's pretty cool, because when we talk about like why I did what I did, it's different than why you did what you did.
That's right.
And so very, very cool to hear that. Shout out to your folks. Make sure to send this to them so they can hear that again. That's a pretty awesome, man. Well, there you have it, folks. A badass brother, Hector Delgado, Navy SEAL, 29 years of service, enlisted. We won't talk about the officer side as much.
I like a lot of cake, right?
Yeah. Go give him a check. Go give him a like on social media where you can find him. We'll put out the links right after this. TridentWarfare.com. Go check out his site. Buy some swag. And like I said, if you get a chance to go visit one of the museums, even if you don't have a chance, go make the time. Go check out a museum. Give some support to the SEAL teams.
The discount code is Honor Vets. That's the discount code for anybody who wants to buy. Honor Vets.
Honor vets. Well, there you go. Thank you, brother, for being on.
All right, brother. Thank you so much.
Frogman Friday. Long live